Why lie to yourself? Like we use that statement a lot, and that just means basically to why wouldn't you want to be honest about yourself? Why wouldn't you admit to yourself your faults and the things that you lack or whatever the case may be?
All right, ready? What's going on, everybody? Today is our third podcast, I would say. Third,
Yeah, fourth.
my fault. And today we're going to be talking about rejoice in suffering. Yeah, my name is Edgar,
My name is Kojo.
and we are the owners of Hard Truths. So let's get straight into it. So, rejoice in suffering, if I had to dissect that from basically the beginning, rejoice just means to feel or to show joy. And then, suffering, we all know what that means. So, when you put one and two together, basically means to feel or to show joy within your suffering. Before I dissect that and we go a little bit further, Cole, what do you think rejoice in suffering means?
So in Romans chapter 3, verse 5, God says, not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. There's a beautiful outcome. So when you suffer, so I would use the example of a gym basically. So when you go to the gym, you have a goal, and that goal meant to just become bigger. But there's a process in order to become bigger, and that process is really just lifting weights every day or eating this amount every day. And that might be difficult to some people because it's like you never really did that before. So it's really just pushing your body every single day to get to that weight goal. But more in the godly aspects, the outcome is basically eternal life with him and more characteristic and more of his characteristics and more of a relationship with him so that you can live your best life fully.
100%. I do agree with that. And some may wonder, like, why, as though, you really touched upon it as far as just like bettering yourself, but then in the godly aspect of like eternal life. But some may wonder, like, why would God or why would Jesus put us through this? Like, what's the reason for all of this? And the understanding that I'm grasping and what I began to understand is that it's for the bigger picture. And you touched upon it. I guess the bigger picture would be eternal life. As far as like the worldly thing is to just be one with Christ, following His footsteps, and um, basically like become a better version of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple reasons why he allows sufferings. I mean, well, one, it possibly just could be because of for our sanctification, meaning just to purify us and to lead us closer with a relationship with him. So like, say if there's something lingering on in your life and the only resort that you know is to go to God, he might leave that thing in your life, that thing that's making you suffer, because he knows that's the only way possible for you to go to him. He also might do it just to better yourself. He might do it just so that you can understand that there's something that he wants to give you or there's something that he needs you to do. But in order to do that, he has to leave this little pain or whatever the case may be inside you, whether it be emotional, physically, financially, whatever the case may be, so that you can go through that process to get to where you need to be into. So there's multiple reasons why you have to suffer, but also too, we're really suffering. We're suffering also too because of Adam and Eve. So their first sin. So when Adam ate the tree, well, when Eve ate the tree off the fruit off the tree. So just that consequence of them not listening to God's truth and not obeying Him, but listening to the devil, that also caused us to sin. That also caused us a world full of sin right now. So it's more of just, yeah, just.
Mm-hmm. One thing I have, uh, an example that basically that like I ended up going through that I basically had to practice this and basically practice rejoice in suffering a while back. You're probably aware of it, but like I went through something and it basically just like played with my mind a little bit, and it was just like kind of had me like in a dark position where it just nothing good came out of it. Nothing good was coming out of that. You know what I
Or
mean?
more like what you saw, nothing good coming out of it.
It was I was doing nothing to help me.
Okay.
So it was like, put it this way. When we were done working on the brand, I would just just like do
chill
nothing.
and like
No, not even chill. Just do nothing.
dwell,
Like
dwell in
yeah,
your
like
thoughts.
it was literally just like yeah, just like roaming around in my brain, which is kind of crazy. But from that point, you started doing things that like you just don't like. Started sitting, started resulting back into old habits, things that just weren't good for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't until I guess I hit this like so-called rock bottom where like I decided that like all right, I had enough of this. Like I just can't do this anymore. And that's like um I consider that as like that's when I started my true journey with God. And that's when I finally got like the understanding of what hard truths really means. And from that, besides like personal characteristics that I learned within myself and within God, one thing that I like take from that I did learn is that the love of Christ is like it's not like everyone else's. So what I mean by that is the world's love is like they're gonna love you when you're doing right and then love you when you're on their team, on their side. But love Christ is like love you through all your mistakes. One thing I didn't understand before that I know now is like God loves first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he would love you through whatever mistake or anything that you made. Like I remember there was a time where I was falling back into sin again, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. Well, I actually told you I fell into sin again, like it's like sexual sin, like a month ago, nah, like 3 weeks ago. And he never leaves you for that. He never forsakes you for that. But he just obviously doesn't want you to do it, but he'll never not love you for that. And when it comes to the world, like depending upon what you do, they can either love you or hate you, and they can hate you because of what you're not doing, or they could love you because of what you are doing. It really just depends on because worldly characteristics is more of just if you're treating them good, they'll love you, but if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, they'll hate you. Or even if you're doing what you're supposed to do, it just might look crazy to them. If you're following God and if you're following who God is, people are gonna look at you more like you're crazy because it's not what the majority is doing. So it's just gonna look different. But like one thing you said though, you said something in that. You said basically you were once you're going through that period, you didn't really know what you wanted to do. Like not knowing what you wanted to do, but you didn't you just kind of just was there, like just dwelling.
like how we said like airplane mode is just like you're just not doing anything to better yourself.
And then you said from there you decided you had enough and started like changing what you did and all the and things like that. So partially in that verse, Romans 3 verse 5, he also says endurance produces character. So you know how I just said like he leaves certain things inside of you to like so that you can become closer with him. So without that, you may not have been closer to him. You may not have wanted to learn him and study him because it's like that would have happened. Like you know what I'm saying. So it's really just sometimes he just leaves it there. I know for me personally, like I went through a situation where about what was it, like a year ago, I went through a situation where I treated somebody in my life terribly, and I ended up getting arrested for that situation. And I was just going through court for like mad times during the summer, to where if that situation didn't happen, I wouldn't have gotten closer to God because I wouldn't have looked at myself. So one thing we always say too is why lie to yourself? Like we use that statement a lot. And that just means basically to why wouldn't you want to be honest about yourself? Why wouldn't you admit to yourself your faults and the things that you lack or whatever the case may be? So without that situation, without that suffering, the character of who I am today wouldn't have happened. I learned to control my anger. I learned self-control, discipline. He's given me his perspective in terms of knowledge, not obviously the broad like a whole like his whole like knowledge, but just more things in tune about the world, about myself and him.
Yeah, like bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces. But that's why he says rejoice in it, because you know the outcome when you get close to him. Now at the time I didn't know I would be this person, but now sitting here having knowledge of who he is, I know, like that's why he says rejoice in those sufferings, because without that suffering, then you wouldn't have the knowledge of more of who he is and his characteristics and different viewpoints. So it's really just like once you kind of start to dissect your life and look at your life and be honest with your life, you kind of understand who more he is and see, oh wow, he's really just telling the truth if you really just go to him. So that's why it's more just rejoicing in it.
100%. And you mentioned of like the reason why we say like why lie to yourself, and it's just like being open and honest with yourself. One thing I wanted to touch upon is like one thing you taught me is to it's okay to dwell, but just don't give the thought any judgment.
Yeah, like when you think, like when it happens, don't like don't dwell on it. Don't be like, oh, I should have did so, I should have did that, because should have passed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's all like things in the past, so it really
100%.
don't matter.
And it's like anything that's in the past is like you really can't change it.
No, you
You know
can't.
what I mean? But one thing that helps me is just like just turn any negative into a positive, because whether you know it or not, God is only helping you for the better.
Mhm.
He only wants the best for you.
Yeah.
So just like if the thought is like somewhat negative, just like turn it into a positive. Like, damn, my car broke down, but I don't got no gas.
Or look to
Like,
see look to see the positives in the negative, because there's
exactly.
always something. Like when you're suffering, you may be suffering, but you're not like looking for what's the good in it. Like, what are you
Yeah.
learning? Like, I could say, for example, our first drop, we missed out on a lot of things because we were distracted and weren't paying attention to a lot of things. So some may look at it like, oh, this is bad. What the fuck? We
We
didn't
should have
like.
known
We should have
better.
known better. Da da
Yeah.
da. But what we took to look upon it as, all right, if we sold out in a short amount of time frame, we wouldn't have learned more of the business side. We wouldn't have learned more of quantities. How much should we be doing? How much we should be selling?
100%.
We wouldn't have learned more of just scarcity, more of just materials. We wouldn't have pop-up shops that we did. Like we did 3 pop-up shops because we didn't sell out, like off rip. It took us we still haven't sold out, but it took us like maybe 4 or 5 months to get to like a low quantity that we have now. But like without
those steps that we had to go through, it's like we would have never learned.
exactly.
It's like we're actually glad that we learned it that way, because now we can move forward and move forward in a smart way. So the way, yeah, like you said before, like we're just going with the motions, but now it's like we're actually, you got to look at it as like this is an actual business. You got to look at it in the business aspect and then consider running it as an actual business.
So it's really just more of just, it might not, you might have wanted to do something like, so for just a hard choose perspective, like the business side of it, you might have wanted to sell out your first drop. So you might have looked at it, oh, you suffered. But reality, what are you learning during your suffering? So like when I talked about how I got arrested or whatever, what am I learning during that process? It's really just what do you like, look at what's really happening. Don't just look at it as bad. Like, because I'm also got suspended for school because of that. So instead of looking at it, I remember when I got the notice, I'm like, I'm not looking at it like, oh, I'm out of school.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, I got mad time on my hands. What can I do for hard truths now? So I'm like, all right, bet. Start a podcast. Now I can learn Adobe. Now I can learn like multiple editing. Now I can go back to work, earn money to put back into the brand. So it's like there's nothing. It's more of just he wants you to suffering. Just really wants you to build a close relationship with him. It's not a bad thing, but also part of it too is he does it to see if like how strong your faith is to him. Because I know like me personally, like sometimes I struggle with long suffering, and long suffering is just because God suffered for a long time, so we have to share that burden with him to show our love for him. So it's really like, when somebody says, oh, they want to do something. Say if you want to own a business, how long until that first mishap? Are you really gonna still try to run the business?
Oh, so that's like long suffering?
It's like, yeah, that's like an example. It's like,
okay,
I bet, like, how long are you really willing to put in whatever I ask you to do for me? And I remember even in the story, and it was what's his name? He sacrificed his baby. I forgot. Abraham. Yeah. So basically, God told Abraham to sacrifice his only child, like kill him, like kill his own child. Yeah.
Okay.
And like he was about to do it, but then God was like, nah, don't do it. Like you already showed me like your faith for me, because whatever I asked you, you just automatically did it. And that's basically more of just what God is talking about. Is that's also another reason why like we suffer too. Is he's really just trying to see like how close our faith is to him. So it's more of like along the lines of that.
He'll definitely put you through like trials and tribulations to see if you're loyal to him.
Loyal to you. Yeah, but I don't know. It's understanding really just his word and understanding how true it is, which I struggle with like a lot of times. Like, but I'm not perfect. But at the end of the day, he is trying to teach me something.
Yeah.
So it's more of just like it's like just trials. Like, but he also says though he'll continue to give you the same test over and over again until you like pass. which is crazy, like a real
Yeah.
teacher. Like a
It's
teacher will
real.
give you a retake if you fail, depending
100%.
upon the teacher though.
Yeah.
Unless you got like a teacher who's like, you know what I'm saying?
Nah, but I mean, it's good that you get the same test until like you get a better understanding of, or unless you pass it, basically, because it's not until then that you'll actually understand how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, it was like I just kept doing the same thing over and over and over, and that just didn't end up helping me because it just ended up just keep doing bad things, and it's just like you're gonna continue to get bad outcomes. But then the moment you just start putting your trust in God, but like 100% of your trust in God, you start seeing a change in everything. So like me, honestly, I go to the gym just so I can like see how consistent I can be within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't go for like any, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
So like a discipline purpose
Yeah, 100%
to
a
build that
discipline
discipline,
purpose.
build that endurance.
Yeah, basically, because it's just like even the days that I don't want to go, it's just like I end up finding that like I'm so happy that I ended up going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's even with like it comes to like a lot of our brand stuff like editing or working on Adobe or Procreate. It's more of like just we may not want to do it all the time, but when I look at his truth and when he says you sow what you reap, or when he says just to work diligently at your craft and there's a reward at the end, basically what that says is more of just like, all right, that's his truth and that's what he's saying to us, regardless of how we feel. It's really just knowing that truth and what he said. It's like, all right, but now we just got to do it regardless of how we feel, because we know what his word said, because his word never changes regardless. So it's like, I just got to keep doing it regardless of how I feel. Because he says he's not bound by time or circumstance. So it don't really matter the situation. His word, the Bible, it will never change. So it's like, we're obviously, we're humans, like, we're flesh. So it's more of just like, we have crazy emotions, da da da, but sometimes we like to believe in how we feel. But how we feel can be like bad. How we
100%.
feel can like want us to do things that we shouldn't be doing. But that's also where like our faith comes in, and are we truly believing in what he says, or we gonna believe what our feelings say? And it's like, I'm saying it's really up to you.
I heard something the other day, and it was just like, hear me out, because the beginning of this kind of sounds crazy, but basically it goes on to say that like, would you trust God 100% even if you know that He will fail you? And it's like you it sounds crazy in the beginning because it's just like right, because then it's just like the answer you're supposed to say is basically yes. So like when you put 100% in your trust in God, even knowing that He'll fail you, um, it goes on to say that like basically you might hear it and you might be like what do you mean by that? Like that doesn't make any sense. But then again, it pairs into another quote where it's like, how big could you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
Wait, say it again.
How big could you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So like, so he also says, right? He also says, right. So faith is confidence in what you know, but you don't see. So basically, it's like you know, but you can't see it. But like how you just said, if you dream big, like you would dream big if you knew you could reach it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what trust is. That's what like faith is. Since you can't see it, but you believe it already just because he says it.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Like I don't even. So it's basically like, you know what I'm saying. It's like the same things. Like you can't see it, but that's where the real faith comes in, because you can't see it.
Exactly.
But you know what he says though.
100%.
So that's kind of crazy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it sounds crazy in the
Mhm.
beginning because it's like, yeah, what do you mean? Like that doesn't make any sense. But it's just like God's not gonna fail you.
Yeah, he's not gonna fail you. I mean,
So-
you just literally see what he says, and then it's like you go from there.
Yeah.
And it's. I'm not saying it's easy. It's easy in terms of the instruction manual. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the instruction manual, it's because all right, when
It
you're
basically just says like do.
yeah, it's like when you're building something, you go to the instruction manual to learn how to build it.
Yeah.
It's like you could look at the Bible kind of like an instruction manual on how to have a good life. So if you like, but then like I said, our feelings get all over the place. Our wants and our will gets all over the place. But what our wants and wills, because we also don't like to, I mean, who really likes to suffer? I know I don't like to suffer.
I don't like to
Nobody
suffer.
likes to. But then just go back to say, is it really suffering though? Like, what do you, like, you gotta look at what's really happening.
Yeah.
Like, what's really happening? Like, say, for example, say if I just, like, say if I was going through some relationship problem, right? The girl leaves me. All right, now I bet she leaves me. And I'm over here, like, in my feelings, whatever. Oh, I'm sad, da da da. She left me, whatever. But now, what if that girl wasn't good for me? right? So now I'm looking at this. So like I might be sad with it, but like I gotta look at what's really happening. That girl who wasn't good for me, she left me.
Yeah.
But now I got all this time in my hands to really lock into what I need to do. So am I really suffering though?
Exactly.
See what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and I ain't gonna lie though, it's easier said than done because that example I kind of just used. It basically just happened recently in my life to where it's like it don't like I'm not really suffering for real. It's more of just my feelings is all over the place. So it's more of just it's not easy because it was days where because of that I fell into sin, but it's natural. Like I fell into sin, da da da. But that's more where my faith comes into play and where my faith has to be stronger to understand like don't listen to my feelings, listen to what he says. But it just really goes on more of just trying to say let's listen to his truth and picture what's really happening during that time frame of your feelings all getting in the mix. So it's really just like that. Another thing too, most suffering is self inflicted. So like what I just was talking about, that was self inflicted. That was more of just I got into a situation I shouldn't have gotten into, but because I decided to
like you know you shouldn't be doing something, but you just continue to
do it. Yeah, and it's more because like our human selves, like, we like to sometimes like not pay attention to what God says because we think we know better. Not even we think we know better; just it feels better. So when it feels better, obviously your flesh is more like willing to do it. But I knew I shouldn't doing what I was doing because I was just mostly distracted for 6-7 months. Mind you, we're trying to just have our first job, so like it's just all over the place. It just wasn't good. But like I said, we live, we learn because now we understand more. So when that things happen, and also could be because like since those things happened, we now learn. We now have the hope of the next time we suffer.
Yeah.
To where we know what's coming. So it's like, yeah.
It's like one thing you told me, you was just like, it's like you've been through a situation similar to that, and it was just like you got through it, no?
Oh no, I was confused. I seen the birds like.
Bro, there was a bird right there. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was like a bird right there, bird right there. But nevertheless, what you told me one time, it was just like you went through something hard, and it's just like you got through it, no?
Yeah.
Exactly. So what makes you think you can get through it the next time, the next time, and the next time that happens?
He says, yeah. He says, hope produces character.
100%.
So it's like, no wait, I think it's character produces hope. Either or, basically it just
Yeah,
means
it's like endurance produces character, character produces hope.
So basically, like how Edgar just said, once you go through that one thing, boom, you know that he got you through it because he'll never leave you or forsake you. So once you got through it, so now because you will suffer again, he says there's a season for everything. So right now, once you suffer again, just remember that time he once got you through it, to know that you will be fine again. Now I ain't gonna lie, it's easier said than done because like I've failed multiple times. I just put in my true faith in him because it hurt or whatever the case may be. So easier said than done. I'm just telling you what he tells us. So it's more just like paying attention to him.
There's a quote I like, and it's like, it basically goes, you have to experience the rainy days to actually appreciate the sunny days.
I like that.
You know what I mean? And something that I heard or like I seen the other day was basically just like think of yourself as like an avatar. It's kind of crazy to think of it like that, but it's like consider yourself your own avatar. And let's go one step further, let's consider yourself as like an avatar in a video game. If you want him to be strong, you'd probably bring him to the gym every day.
Right.
If you want him to
feed him right.
Yeah, like if you want him to be and have the characteristics of whatever it may be that you want, you would basically try it and do it. So if you wanted him to be patient, you probably wouldn't give him things right away.
Oh damn! So you like withhold stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, who said that?
I don't know.
That's a move though.
I don't know. Yeah. But it's just like you got to think of yourself as that specific character, and it's just like instead of you controlling the game, it's like God controlling the game. So he might not give you something right away because it's just like he's building your character.
Yo, imagine asking yourself like every day when you wake up, what can I like do to improve my character? So yo. So you really had to be literally honest with yourself to the point where you know all the things that you do you can't do. That's really like long suffering, but like you know the outcome of what that can be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. I mean, I ask myself, one thing I do ask myself is how can I get better every day?
Mhm.
So, but like, I'm not, how do I say, like, obviously, like, I'm not going to do more of, I have to be disciplined enough to do everything, but I don't even do everything. But it's more of just like, even today, I was like, I was watching a podcast in the morning. He was talking about what should a CEO do? It's like, how does a CEO live his life? He was like, bro, reads like 53 books a year. A CEO reads 53 books a year, like on average. He was like, the average is regular American reads one. I'm like 53 to one. And then he goes, if I only read like five, like I'm already way ahead of like the average American,
100%.
which
Yeah.
is kind of crazy. But it's like he's willing to put himself through those like uncomfortable situations to learn to be that CEO. So to be that character he's willing to be, he's really just putting himself through those uncomfortable situations. It's like it's uncomfortable, but the outcome is true though. Like it's
Yeah.
actual like a truth. So it's more of just understanding that, trying to like click that through our brain. Now that's smooth. Whoever wrote that quote.
Wait, which quote? Which
The
one?
quote where you was like,
The sunny one?
yeah, so when you broke down like patience and all that.
Oh, so yeah, the quote is basically just like you have to go through a rainy day to experience a sunny day.
Yeah, that quote.
That's the quote.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was another video where it basically touches upon like viewing yourself as like a character, and then he goes and dissects it and makes it a better understanding for yourself. But I mean, yeah.
I mean, there's another example we could use in terms of there's a character in the Bible named Joseph,
Mhm.
and basically Joseph was always obedient to God, faithful to God, but Joseph went through some hard times, like hard times. He was enslaved. He was put in prison.
Oh yeah, you was telling me that.
Yeah, he was put in prison, and then I forgot one other thing, but regardless, at the outcome of Joseph's troubles, he became a ruler over Pharaoh's home. So he just became the overseer of everything. And without those, so basically, when he was in prison, there was prisoners in the prison who had dreams and things like that. There was like two prisoners who had dreams, and Joseph was the interpreter of those dreams. But those two prisoners who had the dreams, they were Pharaoh's like servants, and Pharaoh was like a ruler. So, but since Joseph was in there, he interpreted those two people's dreams, and Pharaoh needed those dreams interpreted. So once those two people got out of prison, they told Pharaoh, who interpreted their dreams. Pharaoh was like, "Yo, you're wise," like to Joseph, and like, "Oh, you're wise. You're this and that.
Yeah.
Like, you're now the ruler over everything." And it's like, if God didn't allow that to happen to Joseph, Joseph would not be the ruler over everything. So it's like that suffering that Joseph had, God was trying to get him somewhere to do something in Joseph's life. That's just one example. There's many stories of Joseph where his obedience really led to a bigger outcome, a beautiful outcome for not just him but and God. So it's really just, regardless, understanding that those trials and tribulations are really like, they're there for a reason. They're meant for a reason. So yeah, and I struggle with that like daily.
I mean, everybody does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you just gotta like continue to just like fight through it, and then look at the bigger picture. And when you look at the bigger picture and you continue to fight,
You can go through. You can go through. No problem. You know what I was about to say too? That was like the first time like nobody walked through the camera.
yo, we was gonna get away with it, but I mean, you know, it gotta happen at least once.
One time, yeah.
At least once.
We low key might find a new location. I don't even know.
Yeah, so we'll find out. You know, the sun is busting now. Cannot lie. But question: the story about, I don't know whether or not if it was Joseph Job or maybe somebody else. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there was a story. I might butcher the story a little bit, but it was basically saying on how God, God and the devil, I guess so called, like had a bet, and the devil basically bet God on whether or not to test somebody's faith, whether or not they would stay true to him.
Yeah.
And then it was basically just like, oh, he's doing well for himself, but if we take everything that he has, I guarantee you that he won't trust in you anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was Job.
That was Job.
Yeah. Or Job, whatever. But I don't know. I be forgetting his name.
It might be Job if I'm not correct. But yeah, so nevertheless, the devil and God basically just like take away everything that he had, and the test in this story was basically to see whether or not he would stay true and stay faithful to God, and he did.
Mm.
So with that being said, he was rewarded like double and just like
Triple.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Everything he had.
Literally everything. So you know what I mean?
Wait, what was the question?
Oh, I don't. Was it whether or not the story was right, like the person.
Oh yeah. But yeah, nah. So yeah, in that story, basically, like Job just got double everything, and that's just because of a true testament to his faith in God. So where like he lost everything. Like imagine being rich and being like having every single car you want, every like I don't know, anything, just taken, just ripped. Like a lot of humans would majority of humans would just fold and just blame God or his characteristic. Like, how could you do this? Da da da. Like you're not God no more. Like you don't love me. Da da da. But it's more of just Job chose to follow exactly God's word and see what He said, and he didn't lose faith. He just kept on just praising him. I remember he praised him like even after that. He just went to him, wept to him, and still praised him, and just he got rewarded even double because of his good works and his faith towards God. And it's really just the trust. It's just a trust factor because, like how Edgar even said earlier, more of just if you saw something, if somebody told you, or if like you knew you were going to accomplish a goal,
you would work endlessly to try to achieve the goal. You know what I mean?
But if God is just telling you, but you literally can't see it, are you still exactly?
How hard are you willing to work to go and achieve that goal, even though you can't see it?
Even talking about it now, it's just like it's really like you just gotta do it. You just gotta really believe and it will happen. I mean, I forgot who I was saying to one person. We'll talk about like basketball, or whatever. I was like, yo, these athletes, you know how a lot of these things we call cliche, like you work hard, whatever. I was like, you know how these athletes really be saying like, just work hard. Like you just hear that, you're just like,
I think it was me.
It was you, probably?
I think it was me. Yeah, like, we had a conversation like this.
Just be like, just work hard. And we're just kind of like, we don't even really like pay attention to what they're saying. We kind of just think it's so like, oh yeah, they all say it, like just work hard. But it's like, they really just worked hard. Like it's
how hard are you willing to work? That's the real question.
Like I'll be seeing videos, they be in the gym, like they be saying they be getting up like 750 to like 1,000 shots a day, but like 2-3 workouts a day.
You know what I mean? If you're doing that,
it's like that's what's gonna get you there.
Yeah.
So it's like, damn, that means you really gotta like 3 workouts a day, 750 to 1,000 shots a day.
But one thing I learned is that like it's all about time. Like if you wake up early, it doesn't consume as much of your day as you think. So like, for example, I went on a run this morning. I hit the gym, and I'm probably gonna go on a run after this.
You about to go on another run?
Yeah.
I don't like running.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like it's good for me though. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
I would just go hoop.
By the time I'm done with everything, it'll be like not even 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then from like 5 till whenever I can watch the game, work on the brand, do whatever I want. Like I'm basically done with my day.
You know, that's smooth, yo. So it's basically just rejoice in your sufferings, understand that. And I'm not saying be like cheerful, like, oh, I'm suffering, but just understand like to stay strong to his word when you are suffering, to know that the outcome is beautiful. So, but that's basically all we had to talk about today. My name's Kojo.
My name's Edgar.
And thank you for tuning into Hard Truths Podcast.
Thank you. Take care.